Hey everybody, this is Eno and welcome to the Dynamic Prepper. Well, it's that time of month again, time for our monthly Q&A video. This is the opportunity that all of you who are kind enough to stop by and visit the channel and watch some of the videos can submit questions to the channel in a variety of different ways, which I will get to in just a second. Ask questions directly to me, and if they are good questions and I think that they are relevant topics that I'd like to expand upon more for sort of public consumption that everybody can benefit from, I will choose your question to answer in the monthly Q&A. So last month I introduced this for the first time and it was a very good success, and you all responded with some great questions lining up for this month's Q&A, and I encourage you to continue to submit those questions. And if your question is all questions are good questions, but if yours is a particularly good question and a topic that I would like to discuss for everybody to benefit from, I will choose it for the Q&A video, which we're going to do right now. So I have about, I don't know, half a dozen or so questions that I've picked out. I don't want this video to be too long, so I don't do too many questions, but just a handful of them that I thought were really great questions. If you would like to submit a question for next month's Q&A, you can either post it in the comment section of this video, you can message me through YouTube, that will get me directly. You can also head over to our Facebook page and submit the question there by Facebook, or message me directly through Facebook. Or if you'd like to use email, you can email me at eno@dynamicprepper.com for any questions, and I will post all the relevant links down in the description of the video, so it's easy for you to do. So this is just one of the ways that I try to give back to everybody who is nice enough to stop by and spend a few minutes of their day watching some videos and interacting on the channel. This is a way that I can sort of take some of you out there that are asking some really good questions and put them out there, and I really appreciate everybody stopping by, and I really appreciate everybody participating in asking questions for the monthly Q&A video. So without further ado, let's get started. The first question we have is from SteelBeast1000. What are some good sources of info for gathering quantity of and properly storing a long-term food storage supply? Well, some good information, and I assume you're kind of meaning like on the internet kind of stuff. Some good places that I like to go to, that I find myself often visiting and participating in forums and things like that, are the survivalistblog.net. Really great information out there. They have a great blog, really good forum, lots of very knowledgeable people active on those forums that you can interact with. You can search their blog database, you can search the forum database for different topics and discussions and things like that. And if you still haven't gotten an answer for some specific question that you have surrounding survivalism or prepping or food storage or anything else, you can post it on the forum, and there's lots of great people out there who will answer your questions for you. So it's a really great resource, and I like it a lot. It's been around a long time, and it's always been a place that I've enjoyed spending a little bit of time at. Check into it every so often. Great place, the survivalistblog.net. Another website that I like, it's a little bit newer, just came up a couple years ago, and been doing some really great stuff, is the Loadout Room. I believe it's theloadoutroom.com, if I remember correctly. And they are a collection of former and current Special Forces operators, so Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Marines, MARSOC. These are all guys with combat Special Forces experience that are doing reviews and blogs and videos for products and gear and techniques relating to hunting, outdoor, camping, hiking, survivalism, prepping, all sorts of great stuff, weapons, tactics. It's a really, really great website, and some absolute heroes and first order operators who have tremendous in-depth knowledge on survivalism and prepping and tactical knowledge and all that sort of stuff. It's a great website. Just in general, it's a great website. But if you're looking for some really good ideas and some really good articles and lots of really good reviews, that's a place that I like to go to too. EDC Forum is another place that I like to go to too. It's not specifically about, maybe not too much about food preparation and storage, but again, it's a good place to hook up with a lot of great preppers and EDC gearheads for great information. Me personally, for long-term food storage, I tend to buy most of it. We're going to kind of focus on grains here. Tend to focus most of my long-term food storage buying on Amazon. And the couple products that I kind of focus on is I like Great River Organic Milling for grains, wheat, corn, barley, things like that. I like Great River Organic Milling. And for rice, I like Lundberg rice. And those are available on Amazon. If you take like, a couple bucks from every paycheck or two, and maybe once a month or once every other month, order a bag or two of grains. Go ahead and put it into long-term storage. It's a great way to sort of build up your reserves of food storage to get to that, kind of prototypical, if you will, sort of recommended 300 pounds of grains per person per year. You don't necessarily have to get there overnight, but it's a good way to start building up that storage and getting that larder in place for sort of your long-term food storage. So that's kind of what I do. Those are some of the information websites that I like to visit. There's a lot more out there, but those are kind of the ones that I tend to hit the most, if you will. So great question. Thanks a lot for watching the videos and submitting a question. I appreciate it. So the next one is from Brian Woodford. If one were not able to purchase a semi-automatic rifle due to their country's oppressive laws, what specific rifle or rifles would you suggest for a prepper? Australian viewer. Well, I personally am not, that knowledgeable on weapons laws in Australia, other than I know that you can own guns, but there are some guns, especially semi-automatic rifles and handguns, that you can't own. And I know it's difficult to get some weapons there. I'm not familiar with all the details, but I definitely agree with your terminology of oppressive laws. I think any government that is not trustworthy enough of their citizenry to allow them to own firearms is not a good thing. And obviously that's a discussion for a different time. Right now we'll just answer the question at hand. If I was unable to own a semi-automatic rifle, probably the rifle that I would most likely sort of put my weight behind would be like a scout rifle. I like scout rifles. I especially like the Ruger Gunsight Scout Rifle. I like the 18-inch barrel version more so than the 16-inch barrel version. That's just my personal preference to it. But a very versatile rifle, good for hunting, self-defense, things like that. If you're going to buy sort of one rifle that can do a lot of different things, a scout rifle is a great option. There's a number of different people out there that make, manufacturers out there that make different types of scout rifles, but I think that the Ruger is my personal favorite. I don't actually own one. I'd like to. I just haven't gotten around to getting one yet, but I do have a number of friends that own them and have a lot of trigger time with them, and they're a great rifle. I really do like them. And if you're a little bit more on a budget, the classic Mosin Nagant conversion is always a good option. I have one personally that I've converted. I've had it out here for a couple of videos. In fact, I think it was on the recent top 10 things you forgot to put in your bug out bag video I put out a week or two ago. That rifle was on the bench for that video, I believe. So if you'd like to see it, you can go back and see that video, and you will see the Mosin Nagant conversion. That's on a Monte Carlo stock brass stacker conversion for the sight. It has a long eye relief scope, and the barrel has been cut down on that too to 18 inches, so it's not a full length. It's a 1938 Tula, which is a pretty common rifle out there. The Tulas are pretty easy to come by. Round receiver, Mosin Nagant, and I also have a 1931 Zhivsk, which is in its completely unaltered historic form, if you will. I haven't done anything to that rifle. I really like that rifle too. It's a really fun shooter. So great rifles, very inexpensive. You can typically buy a Mosin Nagant and do a full sport conversion for, scouting conversion for, a couple $100. It's not that expensive. So if you're on a budget, that's a really good option too. So I also like pump shotguns. If you have the ability to own a pump shotgun wherever you live, I also think that that's a excellent and probably preferred weapon to add to your arsenal too. If you could get yourself a scout rifle and a pump shotgun, I think you're starting from a pretty good base there, and I would be very happy with those two in my arsenal, definitely. So thanks a lot for the question. I appreciate it, and keep them coming. So the next question we have is from Saturn Inc. His question was, I recently saw some videos on decon kits. I would really like to hear your take on that too, since you seem to think so much like me. Keep it up, bro. Well, great minds think alike, Saturn. I assume by decon kits you're probably specifically referring to, I would assume, nuclear, radioactive decon kits. There's a lot of different kinds of decontamination kits out there for, chemical pesticide, biohazard, and obviously nuclear radioactive material decon kits out there. To put those in a bug out bag, I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend carrying all of them. It would be wonderful and perfect situation, but that's a lot of space to be taking up in a bug out bag, especially if you're in an urban area. I can definitely see the need to carry a radiation decon kit. I personally don't carry a full kit. I carry the radioactive wipes to be able to cleanse yourself, your hands and things like that, from coming in contact with radioactive material, especially if you have like a dirty bomb or something like that, where things can become contaminated with radioactive material. So that's a good option. Also, iodine pills. Those are pretty much what I do in my bug out bag. But I don't live in an overly urban area where I think that that's a major hazard. If I lived in a big city, I would definitely take that risk a little bit more seriously. I know a lot of people carry the nuke kits. That's a brand name, and they have a full kit available. For the cost is not too much, and they have a good kind of backbone kit for dealing with radioactive contamination, in case that's a specific worry of yours. Definitely, we live in a world where that could be an issue, especially with all the activity we've been seeing in Europe lately for terrorist attacks and things like that. It's definitely becoming, I think it's a matter of time before we see something radioactive taking place, especially in an urban setting. So I like the question. Like I said, I use radioactive wipes and iodine pills in my bug out bag. That's good thing to take in consideration, though. I think it would be a good idea to do a full-on decon kit in a bug out bag, especially if you're in an urban area. And of course at home, obviously you want to have decon kits for all sorts of different things: biohazard, radioactive, nuclear, and also chemical pesticide decon kits, and the skill set necessary to be able to deploy those decontamination kits properly and protect yourself and your family. So great question. Thanks a lot. Jeremy S. asked, okay, all joking aside, he was making some other comments too. How does a guy pick out a bug out bag? There are freaking hundreds of choices out there. I'm working out of my old high school backpacks from 18 years ago. I'm sure anything would be a step up, but sheesh, just get one and roll with it, even if I don't like everything about it. I could see someone wasting hundreds of dollars trying out bags until they found one they were happy with. You're right. That's definitely a concern, and I think it's a roadblock that a lot of people that are making bug out bags do face. Exactly what bug out bag should you get? What style, kind, size, type, all sorts of different options that you can choose from bug out bags. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on a certain bag. It's one of the reasons why I advocate not buying your bag first, because I think if you're just starting out prepping and putting together a bug out bag, I don't think you have quite enough information at hand to be able to make an intelligent bag decision right off the top. So I don't like starting with the bag. What I usually tell people, especially if you're in a situation like yourself where you're already working with bags that you already own, and that's how I got my start too, you probably have a good core kit put together, so you have roughly an idea of the size bag you need. Maybe you want to bump up to a little bit bigger bag, maybe not, but you're going to at least be in the ballpark for a certain size bag, and that's kind of half the battle. The next thing you want to do is make a decision on what type of bag you would like. So do you want a tactical bag? That's fine. Do you want a civilian backpack type bag? That's fine too. There's lots of sort of crossover hybrid type bags like the Oakley Panel Pack or the Kelty Map 3500 are good examples of bags that are tactical in nature but don't look overly tactical. They're not full of a bunch of molly webbing on the outside and come in combat camouflage patterns and things like that. They don't look like necessarily loadout bags, but they definitely do cater more towards the tactical side of prepping and survival and preparedness and things like that, and that's good. They're good, tactical, strong, well-made bags, but they're not too overtly tactical in look. So they blend in nicely, especially in an urban environment. So the type of style that you want something with a lot of pockets and storage? Do you want something that top loads? Do you want something that sort of clamshells open so you can kind of see everything? Different aspects of bag construction that you can kind of narrow down preference-wise will really help to start to narrow down the types of bags that you're looking at. And the last thing I would say is when you do finally make your decision to buy a bag, especially if you're going to buy off the internet, instead of buying on eBay or some fly-by-night company or Amazon or something like that, go directly to a manufacturer. You're going to pay a few extra bucks, but you're going to get a really nice return policy for those bags. Get the bag, trust your gut, put some weight in it, carry around. If it's not comfortable, pack it back up and send it back. Get a refund or get something else. Trust your gut in those situations. I say it's kind of like the same thing with shoes. Like if a pair of shoes isn't comfortable, like basically right when you put them on, you just got to trust your gut, and it's not the right one for you. So stuff isn't going to get more comfortable. Let me rephrase that. Uncomfortable things aren't going to get more comfortable as they break in. Comfortable things will get more comfortable as they break in, but something that doesn't work for you isn't going to miraculously change just because you break it in a little bit. So trust your gut when it comes to how a bag feels and how it fits and how it rides. And then, of course, get practice with it. Fill it up. Go out on practice weekends. Carry it with you. Work out with your bag, do hikes and walks with your bag. Get used to carrying it and get used to having it with you, because if it's not with you, it doesn't do you any good. And an uncomfortable bag or a bag that's way too big or way too heavy is going to be something that you wind up being inconvenient and uncomfortable for you to have with you all the time, and then it's useless. So make a smart decision there. So thanks a lot, Jeremy. Great question. Like to go in a little bit deeper, explanation of that one, but I think that's enough for right now. Okay, so the next question we have was actually on the Facebook page, and it is, why is MMA not considered good street self-defense? So first of all, this again, I've been a long-time martial artist, and a lot of the stuff I do on Facebook and stuff like that is a lot of martial arts-based stuff goes on out there, and forums and things like that. I get involved with conversations with a lot of people about the martial arts and things like that. And this was a question that popped up on the Facebook page for some conversations I was having out there. And somebody asked, why is MMA not considered good street self-defense? Well, I kind of want to tiptoe lightly here, because when you start talking about this stuff, you wind up getting sort of, MMA sycophants and martial arts gurus who get offended if you talk bad about their particular martial art or whatever they like to train in. The first thing I'll say is, as long as your martial art that you want to train in is providing good fighting techniques, that's the basic requirement of any martial art. And as long as you're learning that, you're doing pretty good. The benefits of MMA is that it's a very diverse system. You learn a lot of different techniques sourced from a lot of different types of martial arts, and it's good all around. Fight training, it's good workout, get you in shape, which is kind of half the battle, and definitely time well spent in the dojo or the gym, training and getting into shape and learning to fight. The problem that I have with MMA is that the context is wrong. It's a sport martial art. So when you train in MMA, you're training to fight in a sport environment with rules in a ring. And even though it's a combat sport and it looks very brutal on television, it is entertainment. And it is not the right context for self-defense. There are schools out there that are beginning to adapt MMA to self-defense sort of ideologies, but they're few and far between. It's definitely a growing momentum, but it's not all there yet. A lot of people aren't going to have access to that. If you're just training at a traditional sport MMA gym, there's lots of things about self-defense that you're not going to be learning, like there's no weapons defense. It's all one-on-one combat focused with a trained martial artist as your opponent. It's not really preparing you for real-world violence. It's not preparing you to fight multiple assailants. It's not training you in any sort of threat de-escalation, conflict resolution, threat avoidance, anything like that. So escape, typically a sport MMA will train you to win a fight, not to escape a fight, which is sort of the basic difference between sport martial arts and self-defense application of fighting. So the other thing I will say there is that, you know, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And people that train in the martial arts and don't do anything else, a lot of times will look at self-defense through the eyes of a trained fighter as a martial artist and think that self-defense is all about fighting. And likewise, people that are really into gun culture, and I am too, sometimes will view self-defense as, concealed carry weapon and through the eyes of firearms. And those are definitely aspects of self-defense, but they are not self-defense in its totality. I like to use the analogy of the blind man and the elephant to kind of explain this concept. Self-defense is self-defense. Self-defense is not a weapon. Self-defense is not fighting. Self-defense is not any one thing. It's a concept that involves a lot of different things. And there's the analogy of the blind man and the elephant, where you have a number of blind men that are standing around an elephant and they're told to describe what an elephant is. And the first blind man walks up and feels the elephant's trunk and says elephants are like snakes. And the second blind man walks up and feels the elephant's foot and says elephants are like trees. And the next blind man walks up and feels the elephant's side and says elephants are like walls. And the next blind man walks up and feels the elephant's tail and says elephants are like frayed rope. And the final blind man goes up to the elephant, walks all the way around the elephant, comes back around the other side and says, I get it, elephants are like elephants. And the problem is when you train in just the martial arts, just in fighting, or just in firearms tactics and things like that, you tend to look at just a small aspect of self-defense without really taking in consideration the whole. Self-protection is as much about home security and installing good locks on your doors and situational awareness and traveling safety and hotel safety and international travel, if that's what you do, and family security and threat awareness and de-escalation and conflict resolution and knowing the law and what your rights are when it comes to self-defense and different applications, learning to fight, learning to use a firearm and how to legally deploy a firearm in a self-defense situation. These are all aspects of self-defense, and they all must be learned in their totality in order to achieve true competency in self-defense as a whole, instead of just concentrating on one thing. So, even though MMA is directly not considered great for street fighting, you never want to go to the ground in a street fight. That would be dumb. Well, you never want to get involved in a street fight. That's stupid. Street fights are illegal. The last thing you would ever want to do is get involved in some consensual fight, no rules fight in the street. That's just stupid and it's illegal. But that being said, if you're looking for self-defense training, it's not all about fighting. And even if you train in a martial art, you need to make sure that you're training in a lot of these other things too in order to gain a complete picture. So, but again, you want well-rounded martial arts training. You want some grappling, ground training. You want some stand-up, kicking, punching training. You want training in how to engage and disengage, how to fight multiple assailants, how to deal with weapons. Dealing with weapons is difficult. A lot of people sometimes don't really realize how vulnerable they are, even if they have a gun. Concealed carry weapon, a lot of people, when they think of self-defense, think of a concealed carry weapon. They go out and get their CCW and buy a gun, and then they think that they're, have self-protection, set, and they're all good. And that's not necessarily the case. The way to thwart anyone that has a firearm is to close distance quickly. If you close distance within a rapid amount of time, your opponent is not going to be able to deploy their weapon quickly enough and effectively enough for it to be of any use to them in a self-defense situation. And criminals know this, and they will use tactics in order to thwart if you have a weapon, whether it be a firearm or pepper spray or whatever. They will sneak up on you, and when you don't expect it, they will ambush you. They will engage in subterfuge. A very popular one that's around these days is criminals will sort of have their face buried in a cell phone, texting, playing with apps, walking down the street, and they will walk right up to you and then rob you or demand things of you or assault you or whatever they're going to do, because we don't view playing around with a cell phone as a threatening activity. So they'll simply walk right up to you, and a lot of times it will not pique your awareness or your threat level in order to be able to stop them and deal with it appropriately. The police train in what they call the 21-foot rule, and that basically means that police officers who open carry, by the way, not conceal carry, in the time it takes them to draw their firearm and fire 2 aim shots at a assailant, that assailant is able to cover 21 feet of ground in that amount of time, so that if a perpetrator is within 21 feet of a police officer, their firearm is basically ineffective. That person is going to be able to close distance with them too quickly for them to be able to draw their firearm if they choose to. If they pull a knife, if they rush you, your gun is not a viable option. So having something else to back up on, like martial arts fight training, other forms of weapons, pepper spray, things like that, things that can be possibly deployed quicker, and of course fight training, that's all you have to fall back on. Your firearm is not going to be effective in that situation. And trust me, criminals know this, and they use these types of tactics to their advantage. So it's important that even if you have a firearm, that you are looking at other avenues of preparing yourself to deal with the threat of real violence. So these are all sort of interrelated aspects of self-defense. We do a monthly self-defense class at our martial arts school that's open to the public, and one of the things that we do is we kind of use this 21-foot rule. I don't necessarily agree with 21 feet, but we use that concept, and we do a demonstration in the very beginning. We'll take people, they use a SIRT gun, a training firearm, and we tell them that we're going to stand a certain distance away from them. We want them to, we're going to rush them or something like that. We want them to try to pull their weapon and fire a shot. And within 10 feet, completely ineffective. You can close that distance way too quickly. Within about 15 feet, some people are able to pull a weapon quickly enough. Within about 20 feet, I'd say, maybe 30 or 40% can do it. But the vast majority of people cannot pull a weapon fast enough, especially if you're in a concealed carry situation, if you're female, if you got it tucked underneath your bra or in the bottom of your purse, or if you have it strapped around your ankle. There's no way you can pull a firearm fast enough to deal with somebody who's going to ambush you, sneak up on you, engage in subterfuge to close distance with you, or simply is going to rush you in a criminal violence situation. It's very, very difficult to use a firearm in those situations. So you have to be prepared for that. You need other things that you can fall back on. If you have MMA training, if you have fight training, self-defense application, self-defense context, those are excellent things that you can back up on to help you deal with those situations. So highly recommended. Related question, another viewer asked, where can I get self-defense training without paying lots of money, traveling to faraway tactical schools, or signing up for years of MMA training? It's a good question. The first thing I would do is I would contact your local police department and ask if they have a list of certified self-defense instructors, tactical instructors in your area. Chances are they do. Chances are they may even send their officers to those schools or those people to get that kind of training. Chances are they may even be off-duty or former officers that are conducting those training courses. So I would contact your local police department and ask them first. They should and normally do have at least contacts, if not even a list of people in your area that can provide you with that training. The next thing I would do is I would actually contact, or at least go out to the websites and look at the events calendars of your local martial arts schools and dojos. A lot of them, like our school does, is will have open to the public training seminars and courses on weekends and things like that you can take advantage of, usually for a fee. But they're great ways that a lot of schools and dojos will open up their facilities to teach people good self-defense in firearms and in martial arts. I've always said some of the best tactical firearms training I've ever had has been at the dojo because we train in self-defense, and there are many aspects of self-defense other than just fighting, including the use of pepper spray and all the things that we've talked about, including weapons. So we train in all those things. So it's all one big package, if you will. And a lot of schools will open up their doors to the public for those types of courses, and they're great advertising and great ways to pull new students into their systems, which is one of the reasons why they do it. But even if you're not interested in necessarily joining and being involved in, going to a dojo and training 3 or 4 times a week, you can at least attend these seminars and training events that take place at a lot of these dojos, these outreach programs that they do. So take a look at those too. It's excellent resources. So the next question is from Julian. He asked a question about a gray man versus a sheepdog. What do you think about being a gray man versus a sheepdog in a normal self-defense, a normal life scenario, and a SHTF scenario? It's a great question. I have in the past and continue to advocate the gray man philosophy. The reason why I do that is because I don't think that everybody out there has the ability to be a sheepdog. I do consider them to be sort of different sides of the same coin. I think the sheepdog and the gray man have basically the same types of training and the same mentalities. The difference is the sheepdog sort of wears that on his sleeve, and he's the kind of guy that if he walks into a room, everyone goes, that's a guy you don't fuck with. Sort of thing. Whereas the gray man is going to blend in a little bit more, and so if he walks into a room, nobody's going to really raise an eyebrow, but after maybe something goes down, in hindsight they'll go, that was the guy you shouldn't have fucked with. Both very effective in my opinion. I don't necessarily think that the gray man has a responsibility to always be bleeding into the background. I think part of being a gray man is having that training to be able to step up and provide leadership and to protect people when they need that cannot protect themselves, or provide leadership in a vacuum of leadership. I think those are all aspects and attributes of a gray man, but I think anyone can become a gray man. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. With good training and good mental mindset, I think anybody can become a gray man. I think being a sheepdog takes a certain type of person. If you're not specifically that type of person, you don't want to fool yourself. Buying tactical gear and firearms and all that kind of stuff isn't going to automatically make you a sheepdog. It's very mental. So not everybody has that capacity or capability, although everybody has the capability of being a gray man. So I typically recommend people to, blend in, keep a low profile, don't flag yourself. But at the same time, you want to build relationships, build networks, build communities of like-minded people, friends, neighbors, communities, society in general. You want to kind of build those networks within your life that you can tap into and fall back on when you're in times of need or when they're in times of need. And if something happens, you have the ability to step up and provide leadership, provide protection, be a go-to guy. So that's kind of how I view it. So two sides of the same coin, if that answers the question. Great question, Julian. That's a philosophical as much as it is tactical. And you could probably dedicate a book to that topic, definitely. You should write it, man. So thanks a lot to everybody who submitted questions for this month's Q&A. We'll be back next month with another Q&A. Again, submit those questions. The links are down below. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you had a good time. And submit those questions. We'll pick them for next month, and maybe yours will get answered. Thanks a lot.